All right, let's jump right in. Product owner interviews, they can feel kind of intense, right?
Yeah, definitely high stakes.
But that's why we're here. Today, we're dissecting a YouTube video from Richard McMunn. He's a pro interview coach.
Oh, yeah, he's got that site Past My Interview.
All right, so he's been there, done that, and he actually gives example answers, which I love. It's one thing to talk about it, but seeing it in action, that's huge.
Totally. It's like having a cheat sheet for success.
Okay, so he jumps right into it with, tell me about yourself. Now, you might think, basic, I got this.
Yeah.
But McMunn, he's like, hold up, practice this.
And especially for product owners, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, this is your first impression. You got to own it.
Yeah.
Show them you're not just some taskmaster. You're the whole package.
You're leading the charge. You're the visionary.
Exactly.
So McMunn breaks it down. He says, focus on experience, your qualifications, and then, this is cool, he talks about having a customer-centric approach.
Oh, that's so key.
Right. So experience, you'd think, okay, just list your jobs. But he digs deeper.
It's got to be a story. It can't just be, I did this, then I did that.
Yeah.
Where's the passion? Where's the journey?
And then those qualifications. Show them what you're made of.
Yeah, certs, degrees, all that good stuff. It shows commitment.
You're invested in this.
Absolutely.
But the customer-centric part, that's what I find really interesting. Why do you think he zeroes in on that so much?
Because at the end of the day, product owners, they're advocates for the user. It's not about what you want to build, it's what they need.
It's about solving their problems.
Right. And McMunn gets that. You got to show that you get that too.
So how do we weave that into the tell me about yourself?
Think back. Have you ever fought for a feature that you knew the user needed, even when it was tough?
Even when no one else got it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's the kind of story that's going to make you stand out.
That's gold. Okay, so we've tackled tell me about yourself, but then McMunn hits us with why product owner? And honestly, my first thought was like, well, duh, I want the job.
Yeah.
But he's saying it's deeper than that. It's about passion. What do you make of that?
He's right. It's got to be more than just wanting a paycheck, right? You got to show them why this role gets you fired up in the morning.
It's about finding that thing that clicks, where your skills and your passion, they just mesh.
It's like falling in love with the work.
And you can hear it in his voice, how pumped he is about building great products, about empowering his team. Like, that's the fuel.
Totally. So anyone prepping for one of these interviews, think about that. What gets you going? Is it seeing your ideas come to life? Or maybe it's the problem-solving aspect, like cracking the code?
Yeah. Find that thing, that spark, and let it shine. Okay, next up, McMunn hits on something I'm always harping on, and this is perfect for our listeners who are all about efficiency. He's big on dissecting that job description.
Oh, for sure. It's like, don't just skim it, study it. It tells you exactly what they're looking for.
It's your roadmap to success.
Right.
And this ties right into the whole skills discussion. McMunn lists out communication, leadership, analytical thinking, adaptability, all those good ones. But they can seem a bit broad sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, okay, I know I need to be a good communicator, but what does that actually look like as a product owner?
Give me the specifics.
Exactly. So let's break it down. Let's say communication is like, I don't know, the foundation of a house, right? You've got developers, designers, stakeholders. They're all coming from different places. You've got to be that bridge.
You're translating, you're clarifying, making sure everyone's on the same page.
And not just that, you're leading the charge.
You're setting the vision, you're making those tough calls.
Prioritizing, saying no when you have to, which can be hard.
So tough.
Yeah.
And then there's that whole data side, being able to analyze all that information.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got to be data-driven. What are the numbers telling you? What's working, what's not? A good product owner, they can spot those trends, make those adjustments on the fly.
It's like you're steering the ship, right?
Yeah.
And the market's always changing.
Always. Which is where adaptability comes in. You got to be able to roll with the punches, embrace those curveballs.
It's like, don't freak out, figure it out.
Exactly. So for everyone listening, it's not enough to just say, yeah, I'm good at that. Think of a time you had to really flex those muscles. Maybe you had a project that totally went sideways. How'd you handle it?
Those stories, they bring it to life.
For sure. Okay, ready for the question everyone dreads.
Oh, you mean strengths and weaknesses.
The one and only. But McMunn, he's got some interesting advice for this one, especially when it comes to talking about weaknesses.
As we all have them, right?
We do. But it's about how you frame them. McMunn, he actually suggests picking weaknesses that are kind of like strengths in disguise, Or at least they show you're self-aware.
I like that. It's like you're turning a negative into a positive.
Right. So one example he gives is delegation. You could say something like, I sometimes struggle to delegate because I'm so passionate about the
That's
details.
like you care too much.
Exactly. Shows you're invested, right? Or another one, impatience. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, but stick with me.
I'm intrigued.
You could say, look, I'm sometimes impatient because I'm just so driven to see results, to get that product out there and making a difference.
So it's about framing it as a strength.
Right.
You're results-oriented. You're
Mhm.
eager to make things happen.
Exactly. And who wouldn't want that in a product owner? McMunn even suggests mentioning work-life balance.
That's an interesting one. How does that work?
Well, you could say something like, I'm working on setting better boundaries for myself. I want to give 110% at work, but I also realize that to be my best, I need to recharge, avoid burnout.
It shows you're thinking long-term, right? Not just about today, but about building a sustainable career.
Exactly. It shows maturity, self-awareness, all those things that make a candidate stand out.
Okay, ready for a curveball question from McMunn.
Hit me with it.
He asks, who do you think is the most important product stakeholder and why? So who comes to mind immediately?
Well, I'm sure some people would say the CEO or the investors, right? The ones with the money.
They definitely hold weight.
They do. But honestly, I think the most important stakeholder is the customer.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ah.
McMunn is all about that customer-centric approach, and for good reason.
I mean, it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, the features, the deadlines, but at the end of the day, are you building something people actually want, something that solves a real problem? That's what matters.
It's about seeing the bigger picture.
And that's what separates the good product owners from the great ones. They get that it's not just about meeting needs, it's about anticipating them, about creating products that people fall in love with.
It's like you're not just building a product, you're building a relationship.
100%. Okay, now let's get real for a sec. Scope creep, project overruns, those are the monsters hiding under the bed for any product owner.
Oh yeah, those can keep you up at night. And for our listeners who are all about working smarter, not harder, knowing how to handle that pressure, that's key.
Absolutely. That's where those leadership skills, those tough decisions, that's where they really come into play.
So what's McMunn's advice for navigating those choppy waters?
Well, he breaks it down into three main strategies: communication, prioritization, and negotiation.
Music to my ears. Let's dive in.
All right, so communication. I know. It sounds obvious.
But you'd be surprised how often it's the culprit, right?
All the time. And as the product owner, you're that central hub. You got to make sure everyone's in the loop, from the devs to the stakeholders, everyone.
Transparency is key.
100%. Next up, prioritization. When that scope starts creeping, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, like everything's on fire.
Oh, been there.
Yeah.
So how do you even begin to prioritize when everything feels important?
You got to be ruthless. Go back to those user needs. What's absolutely essential for this product to succeed? What's going to deliver the most value? And sometimes that means saying no, even to good ideas.
The dreaded no word.
I know, it's tough. But trust me, it's better to say no early on than to overpromise and underdeliver later.
And that's where negotiation comes in.
Exactly. Scope creep often means going back to the drawing board, maybe adjusting those deadlines, maybe having some tough conversations about resources.
So how do you negotiate effectively without, burning bridges?
It's about finding that balance, being firm but fair. You're advocating for the product, for the customer, but you also got to be respectful of everyone's time and energy.
It's like walking a tightrope sometimes.
Tell me about it. But honestly, having those communication skills, that ability to listen and understand different perspectives, that's what makes all the difference.
It's like those skills we talked about. They all come together in those pressure moments.
They do. And that's what McMunn is so good at highlighting. He gives you the tools to not just survive those tough questions, but to really knock them out of the park.
He does. And we've only scratched the surface here. He's got this whole guide with 21 sample answers. We'll link it up in the show notes because it's seriously worth checking out.
It really is. But even just these examples, they give you a framework. Remember, it's not about memorizing. It's about understanding the why and then showing them who you are, what you bring to the table.
It's about owning it. So before we wrap up, any last words of wisdom for those gearing up for a product owner interview? What's that one piece of advice you always come back to?
It might sound cheesy, but honestly, be yourself. Let your passion shine through. If you're genuinely excited about solving problems, about building amazing products, that's going to come across more than any canned answer.
It's about that genuine enthusiasm.
Exactly. Show them you're not just there for the job, you're there to make a difference.
Love it. And on that note, for everyone listening, keep that fire lit, keep learning, keep pushing. And until next time, happy interviewing.